How did the world begin? Where is God? What's that smell? What do you mean, officer? Life is full of questions which are sometimes tricky to answer, so we tried to find someone who could help. Krish Kandai is like most of the blokes. He likes Star Wars, football and Mexican food. Unlike most of the blokes, he is also the president of the London School of Theology. We plied him with as much coffee and cake as he could eat and asked him some questions about God, the world and stuff.
Hi Krish.
Hey Rich.
It's really great to speak to you because you have studied the Bible a lot, you've really wrestled with questions at the heart of Christianity, and I guess you can't get further into the centre of Christianity than this idea about the cross and the idea that Jesus died on the cross and it had some really massive significance. But I guess my question for you is, how is it possible for an event that happened 2,000 years ago, somewhere thousands of miles away from me and my life, how can that have any relevance to me right now?
Well, obviously we believe that events that happened a long time ago have impact on us. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, so obviously the past has an impact on the present. But the event of the death and resurrection of Jesus is, as you rightly say, central to the Christian faith, because Christians believe that on the cross God was demonstrating his love for every human being that exists on the planet. Whatever their background, whatever their gender, whatever their sexuality, whatever their race, God loves everybody on the planet. And he proved that by Jesus dying on the cross. Now, that seems quite a difficult thing to understand. How can something so horrible and barbaric and violent be a demonstration of God's love? And one way of thinking about it is, I got married to my wife 21 years ago, and after a brief honeymoon in Colville, we went to Thailand to visit some of my relatives that live out there. And my wife and I, we were walking along the beach, and if I said, "Darling, I love you so much, I'm going to throw myself into the water and drown myself for you," I'm not sure, our marriage was still going all right at that stage. I'm not sure my wife would have thought that was a demonstration of love. And so many people say, well, how can Jesus dying on the cross show love for us? But imagine we were swimming, both my wife and I, in the sea, and I spot a fin coming towards us, not a finished person, but a shark fin coming towards us. And I say to her, "Darling, I love you. You swim for the shore, I'll do my best with the shark." I hope I'd be that brave, but let's just go with it for the story. And imagine that in dealing with the shark, I was killed, but my wife did get to live. I think my wife would know that I loved her through my death. Does that make sense? And so Christians believe that when Jesus died on the cross, he was saving humanity from something really dangerous and really terrible. And that thing, and this is where it gets a little bit exciting but complicated, is that Christians believe that God is absolutely morally pure. He's absolutely good. In fact, in the Bible it says, God is light in whom there is no darkness at all. And it's as if it's saying that evil, injustice, sin, wrong, bad stuff, that isn't what God is like, and God can't actually tolerate it. But as I look in my life, and sadly as I look around the world, I see that there is evil, intolerance and injustice and sin in my heart and in my actions and in my culture. So I told you that God loved the whole world, but our whole world has been affected or polluted by sin. What can God do about it? Well, Christians believe that God sent Jesus into the world, and he lived the life that every human being should have lived, full of grace and compassion. He was kind to all the kinds of people that everyone else rejected, the outcasts of society. Jesus just loved them practically and deeply. And then when Jesus died on the cross, he was taking the punishment for the sins of the world. And so instead of God's anger at sin and injustice and evil being poured out on us, it was poured out on him. And so just like me, wrestling a shark might save maybe my wife, well, Jesus taking on the anger of God on himself was the way that he was rescuing us from actually the fate we all deserved. So for Christians, this is absolutely fundamental to our faith. Many Christians actually wear a cross as a symbol, or as a piece of jewellery. And again, that might seem a bit macabre, isn't it? Imagine that those of, maybe people can remember people like Kurt Cobain or Princess Diana. Imagine to commemorate Princess Diana's life, someone smashed up a Mercedes and stuck it on a chain. It would be a weird way to remember that princess, just remembering the way that she died. But Christians wear a cross to say, actually, this is where God demonstrated that even though we've messed up, even though we've broken God's laws, God loves us enough that Jesus would die for us. And the real clincher for me is that 3 days after Jesus died on the cross, Jesus rose from the dead. He didn't recover. He wasn't kind of, in a hospital or something. He was buried in a tomb. And yet 3 days later, Jesus came out of the tomb, conquered death, talked to his disciples who had seen him dead on a cross, and convinced them that he was not just resuscitated, but resurrected. And from that moment on, the explosive power of the good news of Jesus' life spread around the world, because these followers of Jesus realized that Jesus had died for the sins of the world, resurrected to prove it was true, and then they went around everywhere telling people that God loved them and there was a way to be in friendship with God forever. So it really is absolutely essential to the Christian faith.